sorry, this is, I guess, part 2 of the video on starting seeds because my video just stopped. So I'm going to continue where I left off. You can see these have little holes in the bottom. So let me show you how we're going to set this tray up once our seedlings have germinated. So there are these little stands that you can put in the bottom, and then you're going to fill up this bottom tray with about 1 inch of water. So you know it's only going to come up to not even halfway up here. Then you're going to put this little mat on top, and it is important that the ends of the mat go down into the water. So I'll get it on both sides here. Okay, so now the ends of the mat are in the water, and then you set these back on top of the mat. And what that's going to do is that little mat underneath is going to wick up water from the bottom tray, and it's going to allow the seedlings to wick up water from that mat into these cells. And you don't necessarily have to do it this way, but it is better for the plant to be watered from underneath as opposed to just continuing to spray it from the top. So it's just kind of like a nice little thing, and plus that you don't have to check and water it quite as often because it's more of a self-watering system. You just have to check that tray, the water in the bottom, and just check that every couple of days to see if it needs to be topped up. Okay, so then, and I should say real quick before we go on, if you don't have this kind of system, totally fine. You can start seeds in lots of different ways, like I said before. You can even use old, what is this, maybe like a strawberry tray, or you know, anything that you get at the grocery store. This might have had who knows what, tomatoes or whatever. But you can actually use these to start your seeds as well. So you can see this has holes in the bottom. This has holes in the bottom. You can't really see it that well because it's dark, but these both have plenty of holes punched in the bottom. Now I don't even know what you call this tool, but it is sharp. You can use whatever you have, but I just poke holes all in the bottom of my container. And then I go through the same process. I would put this in here, I would fill it with soil, I would tamp it down gently, top it up, plant my seeds, whatever seeds you're planting, look at the back of your package to determine the depth. And if you have a cover to go over it, great. If not, you can just make it work without one. And so you could definitely make this a more kind of low-key situation than going and buying one of these self-watering systems. So, and I've actually found certain things have worked better this way. Leeks, for whatever reason, seem to do way better when they're planted in here. Some herbs seem to do better. So it's just kind of trial and error. I really just like this system because of the self-watering function, because it just kind of takes some workload off of me when I'm starting a bunch of seeds in the greenhouse all at once. Okay, so let's say you get to the point where you have, actually let me show you here. So let's say you get to the point where you can see these are started in one of these black trays. And your seeds have germinated, and now you are ready to transfer them into something bigger because they can't really stay in here for too long. They're going to be too crowded. There's not enough room for the roots to grow. So the next kind of, I go from either this small system or this, and I pot them up into a bigger pot. Now generally what I use are these 4-inch pots that usually you can find in any kind of big box store or nursery. And then this 18 section tray. And I do the exact same thing that I showed you earlier, put the soil in, tamp it down lightly, top it up. And then I have this tool, which I don't know what this is called, but I have this tool. It's called, on the tool it says the Rumford Gardener. But this is a way, and I'll show you in a minute how you can get these little seedlings out. If you don't have one of these, just use the back of a spoon. Pretty easy. It's kind of the same shape, as you can see. But I wanted to show you this. So let's say I wanted to put one of these dill plants into this 4-inch container. I'm gonna make a little well in the middle, and I'm gonna take my tool and I'm gonna gently nudge the plant out from the bottom. So you can see the roots are still intact. I haven't disturbed the root system that it's started to grow too much. So definitely try to pop them up from the bottom. And then you can just gently tap it in to the soil. Now some plants like to be kind of put down a bit deeper, but in general, let me see if I can show you actually with this Swiss chard. You see how this Swiss chard, I could have planted this up to here where the leaves had started growing up, and that whole section could have been buried underneath the soil. So sometimes you'll find that when, especially with greens like kale, collards, cabbage, chard, they all kind of have this long stem where you can just try to bury it up to here. With dill, I think it's fine for it to be like this. But in general, like that, it's a fairly straightforward process. You just pop it out of your smaller system into a bigger pot and then let it grow on a bit more. You can see that once, you know, this Swiss chard was a teeny tiny seedling. We put it in here and now it's able to grow on a bit more and be more healthy and robust before we put it outside. I would say the bigger you can get your plants inside before transferring them outside, the better. I've just found that there are all sorts of pests and critters that love little tiny seedlings, and when you put them in the ground when they're really small outside, the survival rate is not very high, and you have to just kind of baby them along a little bit more. So that's pretty much my process. Now from here, from it being in one of these bigger trays in a 4-inch pot, I'm actually in the process of hardening these off. So that means that we're gonna take it and set it outside for a few hours, bring it back inside, and then the next day we would set it outside for a little bit longer, bring it back inside, and keep doing that every day. So you're just extending the time that the seedling is sitting outside. Because if it went straight from the greenhouse where it's nice and protected and temperature controlled and put it straight in the ground outside, it might shock the plant. So just to make sure that you're, you know, all this time and effort that you've put into getting your seedlings growing, that you want to just kind of gradually expose it to the outside elements. I think that is about it. So hopefully this was helpful. You can always contact me at the food bank if you have any questions, and good luck growing.